nobody has the right to tell me that my journey is not correct. My journey is my journey. And you've allowed me to not only just take the positives of my journey, but the negatives of my journey. And they're both equally powerful.
Welcome to the Ignited Recovery Podcast, a new way forward for anyone looking for answers but feeling left out. If you've been searching for empowerment, triumph, and purpose, you've found them right here. You won't hear the same solutions, and you're not going to have any excuses to fall back on, because Ignited Recovery allows heroes to rise and become their best selves. I'm Dr. Adi Jaffe, and I can't wait to be your guide on this journey. Are you ready to become an Ignited Hero? Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Ignited Recovery Secrets Podcast. I'm Adi Jaffe, and I've got a really, really fun little interview for you today. We've got Richard, who is part of my Ignited Hero program, who came out. We did this pretty long conversation about his experience, because Richard's experience is common to that of many people that I talk to, but also has unique facets. And I think that's why I want to share this now. So Richard's struggles originated around drugs, but earlier started with alcohol. And really, like so many other people, have to do with fitting in. Part of that is because Richard identifies as gay. That's part of the reason why we're sharing this now for Pride Month. And probably not a surprise for a lot of you, but starting to discover that you're not the way men were told your entire life growing up were supposed to be can be problematic. It can affect your self-esteem. It can affect your anxiety, your stress, your ability to fit in with others. And so Richard found himself in that situation. And by the time Richard came to us, and I'm going to let you listen to his whole story, but by the time he came to us, he tried a few other things. He tried other rehabs. He tried other therapists. And nothing quite clicked. And so I want you to sit back, listen to Richard's story. I want you to really pay attention to what happens when somebody feels like they're being rejected, like they're being shamed, like they're being cast aside. And in the context of everything that we talk about here, what can we do? What can we do to help people like Richard feel more accepted, feel like they belong more, feel less traumatized and less rejected? Because I think that if we can do that well across society, we'll start seeing that a lot of these mental health and addiction struggles we've been fighting against for so long start disappearing. Listen up.
So your name's Richard. I don't need a last name for this because we'll just keep it there. But you found Ignited as you were looking for help. And maybe before we even get to how you found Ignited and what was different about it, I'd love to know a little bit about the experience you had beforehand. When did things start going badly for you? What was the experience like? What were you trying to do to make it better?
For me, things went bad. Things have always been bad internally. When they started coming out, high school, things started coming out. I couldn't make friends. I couldn't speak. I got excused from public speaking in school. I never had a male friend in school. I was only comfortable around girls. I don't know really what that was. I think I was able to at least express feelings around girls. It wasn't about being, good at athletics. I was good at math. I was the nerd, but I didn't want to be the nerd.
Yeah. And feel uncomfortable around other people, and in girls you found comfort. Like that was a safer zone.
Yeah, I could be smart, but I could also be cool, I guess.
Got it.
Whereas with the guys, it was like, well, can you throw a football? I'm like, no, please don't even throw a fucking pen at me because I won't catch it. is going to hit me in the face, and I hope that doesn't explode.
I love it.
You know,
so how old are you when this is happening?
I'm 16, 17. I remember going to prom. I went with all the girls. I had no date. I didn't want to go, but I went. It was
what was it? What did it feel like? I mean, you're saying that you felt uncomfortable even before that, like your whole life kind of growing up. What does it feel like waking up in the morning, going to school, having none of these friends that you want to have? What was the feeling like that I assume at some point pretty soon here led to drinking and some of the other stuff?
Oh, it was terrible. It was like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
What am I missing? I can go back to my earliest memory was T-ball. My parents made my brother and I do at least one, and they thought they were doing a good thing. At least one thing, you go to one group or one activity, and they were all boy activities, right? A quote unquote boy or quote unquote blue, and blue is my color because it matches my eyes, but that's a later thing. But it had to be baseball or soccer or something. So my brother, they put me in T-ball, and which led to, this is funny because it led to my career, not from this, but I would be always put right field, and I would pick dandelions. And when when the ball came, I'd be like, "Oh fuck! I'm just gonna pick this little flower here and hope that the center field guy comes over." And that was torture.
Yeah.
My parents don't see it as torture; they see it as we allowed you to do one thing, and what they didn't realize is, and not that I'm a dancer, not that I'm in the stereotype gay person. I didn't want to do ballet either. Fuck, I can't put 2 feet. Sometimes I trip in my running shoes.
Yeah.
So none of it fit for me. And then going into middle school, like we have grade 6, 7, 8 in Canada, and then we go into high school after that.
Yeah.
And going into high school, and I was just talking about this in our group, was I had the best high school gym teacher, because he said, and he was the most masculine, scary looking person to someone like me. And he said, if you don't want to play football, if you don't want to play tennis, if you don't want to play whatever, just find another person, throw the ball back and forth. But amongst all my shame, and this relates to later in life, I had this wall up. I can't see the value that you are giving to me by saying, you don't have to play football, just find another person and throw the football back and forth to each other.
Yeah. And that also puts you in a place where when you're not prepped, you have to go ask somebody else almost like for a favor, right? Can you join me in this other kind of activity? And sometimes that can take a lot of bravery.
It can take a lot of bravery. I was, if I think back to it, and I haven't thought back to it much until literally 2 days ago when I talked about it in group, there was always another one of me in the group. Like, they didn't admit it. They weren't quite as, aware of what was going on in their body, but they were like, yeah, I'll throw the football with you.
Got it. So when did so this is like junior high and high school.
Yeah.
But when did drinking, or when did you start finding these other coping strategies to deal with the discomfort?
So I grew up in a family where drugs was no. And I didn't drink before. My first use was an ecstasy pill.
Oh, wow. And how old were you?
I was, I think, 18. I was at a bar, at a gay bar. I had I escaped. In Canada, we have a grade 13, or it's called OAC. They've canned that now, but so you could either finish grade 12 and go to college, or you had to do your grade 13 OAC and go to university. And my parents wanted me to go to university because I had the smarts to go to university, but I was like, fuck this. I'm not staying here for another year. Like, no.
Yeah.
I lived in the suburbs of Toronto, like actually the next city over. And I'm like, no, I'm going into Toronto. I went to chef school. And so when I got there, the whole world opened up. I was like, whoa, I can be me. I can be, there's a gay area of the city. Oh, what does that mean? And so I explored that. I found, and that was at the time of like, online dating had just maybe started. You remember when it was like one line at a time and you'd have to wait half an hour before you would see a picture of somebody and you'd be like, oh, no. And so I had a partner, and I eventually went on a couple dates, and he introduced me to, I would go to a bar and I couldn't talk. Right. Yeah. Like my high school, note of Richard does not need to public speak because it's a medical condition, right? Because my anxiety came, I was like, oh shit, I would be in a bar of, 200 people and I couldn't speak.
Yeah.
Couldn't speak. So I took an ecstasy pill, and all of a sudden I became, oh, fuck this. And it was good. I was like, oh, this is the answer. Here it is. Got it.
You felt like you could open up. You felt finally like you could connect with other people. It pushed away some of the feelings of I'm not enough. I shouldn't talk.
Oh yeah. I was able to, even though now that on the other end of it, I'm like, God, that was such bullshit small talk. I was able to think like, oh, I want to be involved in this small talk.
Yeah.
Or this like stand around in a group, yeah, I did drink at that time a little bit, but it wasn't, I was like one of those like, oof, what is this? But like, oh, give me a pill. Okay, perfect.
Got it. So pills were your way in.
Pills were my way in, and my anxiety was still in control. Well, it always is. Up until, recently, I had to have another pill in my pocket.
Got it.
Or that pill wouldn't work. The last pill I would take out of my pocket wouldn't work.
Interesting. Because what did that mean?
It meant there was none left.
And kind of, we're done.
We're done. So you can take this one all you want. But when I took that last pill, all I wanted to do was find another one.
Got it. So
just to put in my pocket.
This really speaks to the experience a lot of people have, and they wonder about it. Why is it that I can't stop thinking about the next drink when I'm drinking? Is that really speaks to that experience. Is the reason you can't stop thinking about the next is because you don't want feeling okay to stop. So you just want more and more and more because you want to feel this way and continue doing it.
Yeah, anyone could have come along to me and said, oh, here, this is a Super Mario pink, blah, 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 and it's $30. I'd be like, okay, perfect. And I put it in my pocket, and I'd go home without using that pill. But as long as it was in my pocket and I thought I bought it from a reputable source,
right?
My brain was going, you're good.
Got it.
Okay, we've tricked you.
How old are you when this ecstasy enters?
18.
18.
17, 18.
And where does it go from there? Because it didn't stop with ecstasy.
No, didn't stop with ecstasy. I don't know in the straight world, but in the gay world, we were always like, okay, well, we'll take pills, but we won't snort anything. And then it got to the like, okay, well, we could snort a little bit of K. but we won't snort coke.
Okay, so this is that thing that a lot of people do where it's like, I have boundaries. I have rules.
Yeah, I have rules around this shit.
Start bending the rules all over the place.
Yeah, it's quite fucked up. But yeah, so and it of course it elevated. Okay, well now we're gonna do coke, but we won't do meth. And then for 10 years I did ecstasy. There were nights where I would take 25 in a night.
Wow,
25. I remember going
a lot of money.
Okay, so I remember, what the Canadian dollar's worth, shit. I remember going to Gay Disney 3 years in a row, and I remember getting down there. That was back in the day when you could get shit on a plane, and I would take stuff, but then I'd be like, okay, well, it's gone, and then it would be $50 US a pill, and I remember taking my entire stash of money that I had. I would drain every bank account so that I could buy 25 US $50 ecstasy pills.
Wow.
And took them all.
So you drained everything to get that feeling. You would use all your money just to get little glimpses of feeling okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I felt okay. For that weekend. I can remember that weekend in my head. I remember being at and in the gay world, we would have a pool party, then we'd have an after party, or we'd have a main party, then we'd have an after party, and we'd have 1 hour to sleep. So, do you think we were sleeping? No. And it would be like 4 days long. Yeah. And I would be around all these adults. I was in my early 20s, but most of the people that were there, they're circuit party boys. Sure. They are in their 40s, their 50s. They knew what to do if someone went down, I guess you'd compare it today to having a Narcan kit. Like, oh my God. Yeah. And so I would hang around all these quote unquote adults, and this is what we would be doing. And I'm like, okay, well, these are my people, and this is what I'm doing, and it's making me feel good. And I've got friends, and I'm having sex with people that I want to have sex with that I never did in my teens and early 20s.
Talk around other people.
Yeah, I can do a lot more than talk. And it was like, okay, well, so this is normal. So this is my life.
Got it. So you got
my life.
I always say to people, where I say at the beginning of this webinar, I say, all I wanted to do was feel normal. And here's your path to feeling normal.
I fit in. Nobody knew about this. Nobody in my family knew. Like, they thought I was at a friend's place downtown Toronto. Meanwhile, I'm in Miami. I'm in Orlando. I'm in London, England. I'm in Manhattan, because I was fitting in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So now for about 10 years, things go like that. But then again, it kept escalating, right?
Yeah. So 27, I was going to New York more, and I got into the hard shit. I got into meth.
And that's for you, kind of like for me, one of the drugs that really caught you and really brought you down.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't, even to this day, I don't like it because as someone who suffers with anxiety disorder, major anxiety disorder, that is the worst motherfucking drug. That is the worst drug to put in to your system, right?
Mm-hmm. So it brings up more anxiety.
Yeah, I'd be like, and I never got paranoid. I watched a lot of my friends turn into paranoia, like fucking covering the doors, and I'm just like, okay, this is not fun. I thought this was supposed to be fun. Like, and so for me, GHB had to be included in the mix.
Got it. To bring down the anxiety.
Bring down the anxiety, inhibitions.
So now this is one of those things where we talk about a lot, where now you start playing the game of, I got to take a little bit of this and some of this, and then a third piece right here. And then I got to take it between 4 and 7, because if I take it between 4 and 7, I can fall asleep by midnight, and then I can show up to work, and we all end up playing these games. Yeah. Whether it's with alcohol and weed or whatever it is, or harder drugs, we just kind of try to play the alchemist, right? We try to put the the right pieces together so that we can still show up tomorrow and be like semi-normal people, but we had the right combination of drugs to get us to feel normal.
Yeah.
And good.
I didn't show up to tomorrow. One time I stayed awake 17 days.
17 days.
And I flew from Toronto to New York full of drugs, all sewn into my pants. I would take apart the seam of my jeans and put it in, because I'm like, where have you ever seen seam of jeans get taken apart at the border?
So
not an advertisement for what to do now, but back when I was in those ages, and 17 days, and I went home. I walked through customs.
Yeah.
But I went through Canadian customs, which is,
and so you were already starting to, put yourself at risk, right? Risk of being arrested, risk of passing out, risk of dying from whatever the combination of drugs, right? Because it's one of those things where you're using some of these drugs in combination and your heart might go out or whatever it is, but it doesn't matter, because what matters is just feeling okay.
Yeah, feeling okay. I have a super high tolerance. Even my psychiatrist now, she's like, oh, I hate your tolerance. Your tolerance. Even in my suicide attempts over the last couple of years, she's like, I don't know how the fuck you're still walking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now you're talking already about, okay, so it got that bad. And then at some point you started getting help or trying to get help.
So in about
your family or you?
In 2012, I had been working with somebody. I was kind of the talent. He was the money business person. And we created this floral sort of empire, I guess. And he used drugs. I used drugs. He saw that I was going down much quicker. I was, I had to have them to be present. We used to do these, we had a shop, but then we let artists come in and put all their work in our shop and then have a party for them. And I'd always have to be, so would he, but I would have to be up for the party. I would have to be high for the party, because there'd be like 40 people in our shop. And I'm like, I'm the head designer. How do I talk to these people? I don't know how to talk.
Yeah.
I don't have any self-worth sober.
Yeah.
And then it slowly started to be, I don't have any self-worth high or sober or in the middle. Well, there was just this point where it came like, okay, these things aren't giving me self-worth.
Yeah.
I am worthless. I can take these because they gave me fake self-worth for 10 to 15 years of my life. And then, so it was about 2013, I ended up going into a government paid for facility in Canada, which is probably considered, so it's called the Center for Mental Health and Addiction. So it's in Toronto, and it's our best.
Yeah.
It's our best facility. And they divided all the groups up: girls, Aboriginals, gay men, gay women, and so I did the gay men one. And then I was just kind of like, wait, I don't want to be divided. I'm no different than you are. We're no different. We're both men.
Yeah.
You have Sophie, gorgeous woman. I look just like men. Like,
even beyond that, right? You said the Aboriginal groups or the women, right? It was another way of separating you and making you feel different than everybody else again, like it was when you were younger.
Yeah. Here, which shame card do you want? 1 for the Aboriginals, 2 for the lesbians, 3 for the gay men. If you wanted to be like adventurous, you could go into the all stream group, the everybody group, but nobody went into that group.
Yeah.
Because the jocks and the big straight men that were, the dealers and the scary ones, they had you know, they didn't want to be with the little queens and the, you know what I mean? Like we all labeled ourselves, which is a huge thing. Like I see the word fuck shame behind you, and that is what had me come to you.
Yeah.
Come to Ignited was the fuck shame, because shame, no matter what, even in the places where I was supposed to be safe,
right,
to talk, yeah, I could talk around other gay men. Put me in front of somebody else, and I'm like, I go into my little.
Go back into being scared, and
I'm that little 17-year-old kid that told not to tell anyone who he was.
Yeah. So that was your first attempt.
Yeah.
You had a total, was it 3 treatments that you went to?
No, so I went to that. I did an outpatient after. So that was inpatient. That was
Got it. How long were you there?
That was 21 days.
Okay.
That was 21 days inpatient, but it was 6 weeks, once a week, stage 1. Stage 2 was 21 days. Stage 3 was 1 year of once a week aftercare.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I did it.
Yeah.
And I lied through my slips and relapses, of course.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to be I was the good kid. I was the smart kid. I was the one who knew that, you know, this is bad. So why would I go there and be like, oh yeah, I didn't come last week because I had a slip. I didn't come last week because I was sick. Right? Like, you know, and so that I did that, and I had a counselor. He was not a licensed counselor, but he was a person of my community that had been through shit, that had almost lost his life, and was willing to counsel people. And he did it. And I went to his house twice a week. An older gentleman, but most professional, probably more professional than a lot of counselors I've seen, and would dig into the deep shit. But I wasn't able to, I wasn't able to be comfortable there.
Yeah.
We would talk about it, or we would be like, okay, well, we'll talk about sex next week. I would always put it off. I'd always put it off.
Got it. That was kind of a year-long process for you, beginning to end, where you, from when you first went into treatment till you were done with the more outpatient part of it.
Well, that was a year, and then this counselor was a couple years.
Wow.
He would try to charge a little bit of money, and my boss paid him for a little bit, and then he's just like, I'm like, Rick, I don't have money to pay for this. You know, and meanwhile I'm like, yeah, I gotta buy my drugs. And so he would be like, well, then you're not paying. And it would, and he would introduce me to a group of people, and I became part of this community where they had me as like a junior helping other people. I did a couple workshops helping gay men who were new to Canada how to be comfortable in their own skin, coming from Africa, coming from, you know, these places where their identity meant death.
Yeah.
And so I did that for a little while, and that felt really good. But then also inside, I was like, okay, so these people are coming from hell on earth. I'm coming from upper middle class, where I can escape to New York 25 times. I can go to Orlando. I can go to London, and I'm worse off than they are.
And that felt even more shameful.
Oh yeah, totally. Because all my life it was about what's fair, what's not fair. If my brother got a $15 gift at Easter, I wanted a $15 gift. And mine wasn't 15. I expected the extra $2.
Interesting. So the concept of
fair parents
was really big for you. Yeah. So I remember you said this, and I want to touch on what was different for you and how you found Ignite and all that here in a minute. But you mentioned that you would get into this cycle, and in that cycle, you would get back on the horse, be okay for a month and a half, 2 months, slip up again. That shame will build up, and it sounds like that happened that entire time that you're talking about right now.
Entire time. And I could hide it for quite a while. And And for a long time, I could go. I was going through that cycle for a long fucking time, for years. For
Yeah.
years, I was going through that cycle. That was my cycle.
And
I
that
That
was the
was
way.
comfort.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was comfort. Oh, I'm in the cycle. Perfect.
Got
Perfect.
it.
Here I am. Okay, I know what to do in this cycle. You know, I didn't even have to write it down. I know what to do. I know what to say. I know what to.
Mm,
You know, I know that I need to sleep. So let's, take 10 sleeping pills. We'll go to sleep. All that bullshit.
got it.
And it got it so fucking exhausting.
Yeah. And again, talk about shame, right? Because we're always lying until we get caught. And then we have to backtrack and we jump back on the horse and we do well for long enough. And you said month and a half, 2 months, and the cycle would start back. So what made you how did you find Ignited? What made you find it?
So I had then gone to, I had a partner of 4 years, and we were living in my parents' house in the basement, and it got ugly. And so we both decided, he was working for an airline, so his treatment was paid for. I had to go, my parents had to dig up 12 grand, ended up being 15 or 17 grand, whatever it was, for me to go to a private rehab center.
Yeah.
And I went to that private rehab center, and it was great. I was like the only gay person there, so that scared the shit out of me. But I made some pretty cool friends, some pretty cool straight friends that were just like, and I remember at one point I was really going down, like, my counselor I love her and I still talk to her, but she would be like, oh, okay, today we're going to talk about shame. Who wants to read this? How about you, Richard? Like, she would know what to make me read. And I give her credit because she helped me through a lot. But and I remember one of the times all the big tattooed straight guys, they were all like, you know, can we hug you, Richard? Can we hug you? And I'm like, no, 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 don't come near me. Don't come near me. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. I can do this on my own.
Yeah.
And so I did that, and that was a 30-day inpatient private treatment. And, you learn the bullshits of the private health sector in Canada, because we don't have a private health sector,
Yeah.
except when it comes to mental health. Then we can throw you off into a private, right? Because everything else is regulated. Everything else is like, you must this. Whereas these centers, it was like, oh, here's your room, and it would show this beautiful room, and then when you got there, I'm like, why am I in the basement? And
Right.
I couldn't climb out that window if there was a fire.
Yeah.
And then, or I'd be like, there's no window in this room. What?
So it felt almost like you were dumped off.
No, I went there. I went there with like whole hope. I went there with hope. Like, this is going to do it. Because in Canada, most of the stuff is government.
Yep.
And so I was like, okay, I'm going to go to a private place. And I found this great place. And all these hockey players, I don't know, you may know their names. I don't even remember them. But really prominent hockey players went to this place.
Yeah.
Some of them still came back to do. Olympic athletes went to this place. So I was like, fuck, if they're going to this,
Yeah.
I'm going to this. And so, I convinced my parents, like, yeah, you don't have any money anymore, but how about 15 grand? And they were like, well, we don't want our kid to die. So sure, off you go. And it lasted for a little bit, let's say 2 months.
Yeah.
Again, same fucking thing.
Yeah.
Same thing. 2 months, 2.5 months. And off I went. And then, so then for the rest of that year, same cycle. Parents getting really pissed off. And I'm just like, I'm just feeling shame. I'm feeling, guilt. Brene Brown was really popular. So I was reading her books about shame, and they were all connecting to me. And I'm like, there's gotta be something out there that is different. There has to be a different approach. We have a different approach to, all sorts of things. If you have HIV, you can either go on ARVs or you can go to a naturopath. And I did both. I'm HIV positive, and I did both. Yeah. And they both worked. I just went the naturopath. I was like, do I want to take 150 pills a day? Right. Yeah, they're all plant and bullshit. Or I could take this one pill from the pharmacy. I was like, fuck it, I'll take the one pill. I want,
But you got the decision. That's the important part there.
I got to make the decision. So I'm like, there's got to be something else out there that is not negative based, that is not time based, that is not, okay, so you made it 2 months and you had a slip, so you're fucked. Back to day one you go. And I'm like, day one was a long fucking time ago. Day one was when I was 17 or 18. That was day one. So how dare you make me go back to day one? Fuck you. I ain't getting that white I went to 12-step meetings, and I'm surprised. Like, thank God we don't have machine guns in Canada. No, I'm just kidding. But like, I was like, wow, this is all just negative based. It's all negative. You fucked up. You did wrong. Go back to go. Do not collect $200.
Right.
And so then I don't remember the first thing I watched of you, but that fuck shame thing that, and your story sort of resonates with mine. You were taken away by the SWAT team. I was taken away by the SWAT team. My SWAT team was really nice because they were Canadian. They even loosened I'm like, oh, my handcuffs are too tight. They loosened them for me, and
that's funny. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Oh, we've got They were even one of the girls. She came because I went out driving in my car, running away from my parents, and there was a shooting in the area. And so the SWAT team was out already.
So they just like, they were there. They might as well stop by for you.
So I'm driving in my car, and then I'm like, okay, is there an SUV following me? I don't get paranoid, but there's an SUV following me. And then all of a sudden, 5 major SUVs all came up. I'm like, oh my God, I feel like an American. I'm like in an episode of Cops or Live TV or whatever.
Crazy.
And it scared the living shit out of me. It put my heart into, I had to be defibrillated because I was so scared. Because I don't, if somebody of authority says to me, stop, I stop.
Yeah.
So, but I cooperated with them. And so they were really sweet and nice. But that just got to, the point of like, I'm not getting out of this. Like, I knew how to get my way out of the hospital. Like, my parents went to a city a couple hours away where my brother and my nieces were to go trick-or-treating this on Halloween.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, you're going to be in the hospital. You'll have to see a psychiatrist. Da, da, da. I was out within 18 hours, and I called my mom. I'm like, are you back are you still out in Guelph? And she's like, yeah, we are. I'm like, okay, well, I'm waiting for a cab. And she's like, a cab? You're in the hospital. I'm like, no, I talked my way out of it. I know how to talk my way out of this shit.
Sure.
And and then it was just give up. And then I was ready to give up. So I looked online. I was like, there's gotta be something different. And I found you guys. I found you.
And so you found it, you joined, and obviously, I mean, I remember when you joined and being on the online chats and talking regularly about the struggles. And just to kind of be clear and transparent, right? Because we're all about transparency and fuck shame. It resonated and it made sense in your head, but things didn't get 100% fixed right away.
No, I had years of bullshit, right? Like, I had years of layers and layers and layers. You're not God.
No,
no. I don't believe in God, and you don't expect anyone to believe you are God, but you were able to. I was able to be like, okay, that layer, they're not judging me on that layer. I can peel that layer away.
You felt like you could talk about things and there was no judgment coming back at you.
No, there was no judgment coming back at me. I remember when you called me, which does not happen in, at least in Canadian healthcare, to get a phone call to say, hey, I hear you're struggling. I want you to still have this group. You still got us. You need to call me. Here's my personal number. You can call me at any time. And that was just something that was like, at one point I was like, did that really just happen? And so that just let me peel some layers back and be able to talk about it.
So I remember what you were telling me even at the beginning is that the fuck shame or some of the work around shame was really powerful for you. And then the work on beliefs, right? So some of the beliefs that you had about yourself, all the way from your sexuality to your self-esteem to what you're good at or bad at, and all the way to the relapse, were some of the beliefs that I know we did a lot of work on to remove what you're calling layers and kind of get at them.
Mm-hmm.
What did it feel like to start being able to work through some of the core negative beliefs that you had?
It felt like all the shit that all the other places worked on was gone. Maybe it wasn't gone. I could push it to the side and work on the, I peeled a layer back. It quickly came back on. But you guys and the people in the group, there were some really great people in this group that I've been with that, I can say something to, and I don't need anything but I hear you. I hear you. I see you. I don't know that I feel you, but I hear you and I see you. And I think that was the most important part was, okay, so I put the layer back, but these people hear me and see me and they're okay with me. I can open it again and go into what is in that layer and be comfortable, whatever comes up in that layer, that no one's going to be, yeah, he's a fucking loser. He's weird.
And that's the stuff that it comes down to at our core, right? The same things that came up for you when you were 10, 12, 14, 16 years old. I'm a loser. I don't fit in. I'm not like everybody else. That sits there at our core. That's the deepest shame, right, that we hold on to. And so you were able to deal with a lot of that and work through it, through the support in the program, through the work you and I did together in the weekly chats, and then through the course materials. And then I remember there was a moment where you came and you said, I'm scared. So first of all, you moved out of your parents' house.
I did.
Not because you got kicked out or you had to, even though that's how it started, if you remember, right? Yeah. When we first had that call, it was because you were going to have to move out.
Yeah, because my parents, like, they thought threatening was the way to do it.
Yeah.
Add some shame to the fire and he'll smarten up.
Yeah.
No, doesn't work that way.
But then like a month or two later, you made the decision to move. It was the right time. It just felt like I can't be here anymore. I need to go live on my own. And you kind of downgraded. Like you went and moved in with somebody. Not the best situation necessarily.
This is my room.
I know, right?
That's it, wall to wall.
Yeah, but for you, I remember when you first were able to do it, it was like, I have my own space.
Yeah, I got my own space.
And that was a big thing for you.
I got my own space. I moved to your time zone.
I know, right?
I'm in Maddie's time zone.
No.
Even though she still asks me, what time zone are you in? I'm like, I'm in your fucking time zone. I gotta come and visit you guys. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Because we're all over the place. There's people in Australia, people in the UK, people all over Canada and the US.
I just have to go south and I'll be at your doorstep.
Love it. Well, we'll have an event in October, so you better be here.
Yeah.
And so one of the last things that I remember really working on, like one of the last barriers that we had to work through, was that belief that there was something wrong with you where at 2 months you're going to screw up. And I think a lot of people have this. They've had attempts and it worked for a little bit, but then they screwed up over and over and over. And the belief in their head is something is wrong with me where I can't make it past 2 months or 2.5 months. And what I love about it is because of the fuck shame piece, because of the fact that we get to talk about everything, radical transparency, right? You said it to the group. I remember you said it. I go, you moved out, you were in a better place. We said, I'm scared because we're coming up on 2 months and I always screw up at 2 or 3 months. And I don't know what to do this time.
And I got all the messages from home. Oh, yeah. This is your time. This is your time. Good luck.
They were throwing that stuff at you to remind you.
Yeah.
Watch out.
Yeah. Here it is.
Got it. Okay.
Hold on, Richard.
I don't even know that I remember that piece. So
no, you don't. I didn't say that.
So home is sending you the messages, and then that comes in, and you start being scared. You start getting really, really scared. Oh my God, they're right. I'm going to screw this up.
Yeah.
And then we worked on it. Do you remember how we talked about it in the group?
Look at what's going on there, and what was going on at that 2-3 point month was you can remove drugs. You can lock me in a room for a year. You could put me in a basement, chain me to the wall, give me food every once in a while, and give me a place to go to the washroom or whatever you guys call it in the US, bathroom.
We all need it.
We all need it, but if I was chained down there and there were no substance, I couldn't use substance. So you can take that away from me, and I could go to a meeting and get 6 months, 12 months, because I've been locked in a room. But I wasn't looking deeper, and what you said to me was, you got to look at what was going on at those times, and what was going on at those times was I was just getting to the 2 month mark.
Yeah,
I wasn't in my own place. I wasn't I'm not working right now, but the first job I did interview for, I got here.
Yeah.
And I didn't take it because I'm doing a 16-week outpatient program, and I'm going back through the Ignited program and going deeper into it because I want this to work this time. I need to do different things. I need to look at, I can't just sit in my bed and watch Netflix, and because I made it 2 months without substance means I'm okay.
Right.
And so, and I've been doing work. I have been doing work since probably 2012, 2011, before I went into my first center. But it's the acknowledgement of that work, and it's the continuation of that work, and it's looking at, okay, are you doing the same work over again, or are you progressing a little bit? Right. Are you doing things differently? Are you reaching out? Are you able to contact your counselor if you had a slip? Because I've had a slip. I had a slip maybe 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I had a slip. But it was done like that. It's done like that. I called my counselor. He actually convinced me to take a taxi to see him. I went out in public and saw him.
Yeah.
And then the next day was back
into hiding.
Oh, I'd be gone. I can't go back into this outpatient group that I'm in until all those people are gone. Whereas I went back the next day.
Yeah. Amazing.
I may not have been, my eyes weren't blue, they were black, but I went back and I was like, I reached out to a couple of the group members here with Ignited, and I was just like, I'm having a rough time, but I'm back. I'm back on.
Yeah.
I'm back on. I'm not in bed. I'm not, the last week I recognized, okay, I've been sleeping like 12 hours a day. No. Go to bed at midnight, wake up at 8. No more. Don't care. Get up, get your coffee. You're not going back into depression.
Love it.
fuck that. Go for
That's
a
the
walk.
power we have, right? That's a power that so many of us don't own up to that we have, and that is the power of choice. To put the tools in place and let the voice of the other people who've been kind of boxing us, shaming us, oftentimes, by the way, like you said, because they actually think they're helping, but let their voices lay there and sit there and do the best thing for us in that moment.
Yeah. We every Wednesday night, we do it in this outpatient program. We do this. It's terrible. It's an education where they put all the streams together, and we watch these like 1980s American videos. No offense, American videos of, and I'm just like, I put my hand up and I'm like, wait a minute, my disease deserves a video made in the fucking 2000s, not a video made in the 80s or the 90s. Like, it's 2019. I want a video for my disease where grandma does not, she doesn't have that big poofy hair. Like, and I know that's stupid, but at the core of it, I'm like, how come everyone else gets that? Why don't we? Why aren't we good enough for that?
And you are good enough.
I know. And I get that from you. And I get that from the people in the Ignited group.
I love it. I love it. And I love that you're able to bring that awareness to your group, your counselors, even in other programs, because that's what it's all about, is about owning it everywhere.
Oh yeah. I talk about you everywhere I go. Like, every place I can go where it's acceptable to talk about, I talk about, I know someone who's doing this differently. And this person who's doing it differently has helped me get past it's not a bump. It was a concrete wall. It was, sorry to Game of Thrones. It was the fucking wall, it was the wall. And you've helped me get over that and be like, okay, you're okay on the other side of that wall. You're okay on the other side of that wall. You're going to fall on the other side of that wall. You're going to hit your face on the other side of that wall, but it's okay.
Yeah.
And it's okay to admit that.
Yeah.
And admitting that is actually stronger than hiding it. And I knew that before, but I didn't understand it. I didn't get it. I didn't get it. I didn't get it that it was okay. It's okay sometimes to sleep in, but it's okay sometimes to get up at 6 a.m. and go for a walk.
Yeah, and even the thing you mentioned about the slip, because a lot of people freak out about that word. Like, to go from a place where you were using essentially every day, all the time, to a place where, let's say, worst case scenario, every couple of months you have a slip up. It's like an entirely different universe.
And nobody but you, nobody has ever said that. Nobody has said and I hear, the people who, drinking is their problem or sex is their problem. I mean, sex is my problem, but, online dating is their problem. Okay. You were doing this every day. And in the last 3 months, you did it once every 3 weeks. Good for fucking you. That's positive reinforcement. That's not how
95% improvement.
Right. And that's not how it works in the recovery.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, back you go. Here's your white chip. I wish my chips were not plastic, because they would have been in the ocean by now. From all my NACA bullshit, but
well, look, Richard, I've seen how far you've come, and it's beautiful. And thank you so much for being willing to talk about it, because so many people are struggling and they keep hearing the same message out there, and they give it, just like you have, they give it everything they know they can give. And then they're told, well, you're not trying hard enough, or
right,
you're not serious about this, or whatever the bullshit message is. And then to see you progress in this way to now being able to take this outside into everyday life is the best, because you know what? Nobody's perfect. Other people might pretend sometimes, but nobody is perfect. And so to see you being able to own your truth and your reality is amazing. And thank you so much for being willing to talk about it. Can I ask you a question? If you had to say, like, in 1, 2, 3 sentences to somebody who might be interested in this, kind of like summarize for them what the power of it is and how it's benefited you, what would you say?
Well, I could go on forever, but the power of this has been the key to all the things that have been holding me back. All the things that have been holding me back to listen to other people. I haven't even been able to listen to other people. And now, because you have introduced me to learning that I am okay, and that whatever my mistakes, they are okay, and they're part of my travels, they're part of my journey, and nobody has the right to tell me that my journey is not correct. My journey is my journey, and you've allowed me to not only just take the positives of my journey, but the negatives of my journey. And they're both equally powerful. If not the negative ones that we're all told to hide from, they are probably the most important parts of our journey. Yet we put this cloud of rain over those negative parts of our journey, and you have removed that rain and shone a light on those and allowed me to talk about those so that I can learn from those. Because I think those are the most important parts of helping us learn who we are, how we are, what we are.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm really excited to see where the rest of this takes you, because the beautiful thing about it, this is just the beginning of your journey.
Yeah.
Right. And you finally are able to stand taller, identify, acknowledge, and accept who you are. So now there's this, the rest of your life is about building a life and reinforcing a life that supports who you really are, not who you have thought you needed to pretend to be for other people.
Yeah. And it's crazy that I'm able to speak my truth now, and my mouth doesn't get dry, and I don't need a doctor's note to say, yeah, this kid can't speak his truth. I can speak my truth, and I don't care what other people think of my truth. My truth is my truth, and I'm going to go through it, and I'm going to fall down, and I'm going to get up, and I'm also going to succeed.
I love it. I have a question. Have you ever, like in the last 4 or 5 months, have you talked to your parents now that you're in this new place and in a different phase? Has their way of looking at things changed at all as you progressed?
I think they're going through empty nest syndrome. Even though I'm 39, I don't know if they know what to do with themselves. All their focus was on poor Richard. How do we fix Richard? How do we not get Richard to kill himself? How do we help Richard? And they have no fucking clue. They have no clue.
Yeah.
They have no clue. They come from a generation, this is a different generation. It was, although my father kind of in the last week has been very short with me, and I didn't really tell them about my little slip, because I don't have to tell. I tell people who I want to tell.
Sure.
And for them, they can deal with that. And so my dad, and they came from money, and they don't have money anymore. So my dad has been texting me really, I'm like, this is really rude. Like, what the hell's going on? And this morning he actually, he still doesn't get it that I live in a different time zone. So I was woken up at 4 a.m. to this, I'm having a rough time and I'm sorry. And I've never heard that from my father.
Wow. There might be an opportunity to practice some of this radical transparency with your parents. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, we'll see that. We'll see if we get there.
Absolutely.
I'm going to take his apology and just let it
sure.
Yeah, sit in with me. Like they don't do that. They don't apologize.
Amazing. So, hey, yeah. We all get to grow, right?
It's changing my relationship with my family. It's changing, definitely.
That's so cool. Yeah. Well, again, thank you so much for being willing to do this. And again, I can't wait to continue seeing your amazing journey.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you, Richard.
Okay.
Have a great rest of your day.
Okay. You too.
Bye.
All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Richard. He's a character. He's got a lot to say, and I love that, right? I love the empowerment. Did you hear how empowered he feels now? Speaking of our powerlessness episode that we had recently, how empowered does Richard feel to now live his best life? And here's the thing, right? Nothing actually changed about the reality around Richard so much as his ability to step up and be his best self. So if this resonated for you, do me a favor, share it. Share it with other people who might benefit from it. Screenshot it and tag us so that other people know about it, but also so that I know that you listen and that this really resonated for you and hit you. If you want us to talk about other things, other topics that you really are craving around mental health, well-being, addiction, living your best life, do me a favor and just shoot us an email or a DM. Email would be info@ignited.com, and you can DM me on Facebook or on Instagram. Thank you all so much for listening and paying attention. Love you. Have a great weekend. See you next week. Thank you for tuning in to the Ignited Heroes Recovery Podcast. I really hope you found the information here useful and that we'll see you back here next week. And look, I want to make sure that this podcast is the most useful it can be for you, so please let me know by emailing info@ignited.com if there are any specific topics or questions you'd like to have addressed. As usual, if you like this episode, I would love for you to leave us a 5-star review and rating. Thanks, and see you next week.